Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, help us out and click subscribe to show your support. And while you're at it, if you're a Facebook user and you are sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 every year on the latest, greatest pro wrestling game, don't do it anymore. Shoot over to Wrestler Unstoppable, totally free for Facebook users. Create your own wrestler, sign contracts, negotiate deals with companies, headline pay-per-views, get involved in storylines, create your own organization, everything that you can do in the world of professional wrestling, all available to you completely free. It's Wrestler Unstoppable on Facebook today. And for those who want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast Patreon family and contribute to the show's success, feel free to do so at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. This month, our special that's going on, anyone who typically contributes $50 a month has the opportunity to come on and do a show live with me focused around your areas of interest. This month, we are doing a special. The $25 contributors can come on and do an episode with us of Going Live. And for those who want to contribute $10, you will be thrown into a drawing to determine one of those people will be drawn at random to be able to do an episode with us as well. So, tonight, want to get into our live episode, jump right into the news, the rumors of the day, and at the end of the episode, we're going to go through our predictions for WWE Hell in a Cell, the pay-per-view coming to you guys tomorrow night. Should be a great show, loaded from top to bottom. And while we're doing all this, if you would like to give us some questions, comments, concerns, anything of the sort, if you are logged on to our podcast through the Spreaker app or Spreaker's website, feel free to click the chat function and your information, comments, questions, concerns will pop up directly in front of me on the screen. If you would like to call into the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, it is 267-642-1160, and you can shoot us your questions there on our talk-to-text service. So you give them the voice, they convert it to text, and I can see your questions and comments on the screen as we go throughout the show. Feel free to do that. We'd love to get as many of your questions into the show as possible so that we can make this show catered around what your actual interests are. I don't want to presume to be all-knowing and just do the things that I'm most interested in. I really love to hear what you guys like as well. So, first thing it's on the docket tonight, to me, what I consider to be very fascinating news is that Triple H, in a conversation this week, made it clear that he is very much willing to dance with The Rock one more time at WrestleMania. Now, I know they teased this 2 years ago. They had the little face-off and a little vignette in the back, and a lot of people speculated that last year's WrestleMania would see The Rock versus Triple H. But The Rock filming the films that he's been doing, the conflict of schedule, he couldn't get it done, and that just did not come together. However, I think that Triple H is smart enough to realize that The Rock, with his movie schedule, his popularity in Hollywood, and all those things that are working against his wrestling career, there's only going to be so many more opportunities to bring The Rock to WrestleMania and have him perform at the level that he would want to perform at to be able to really contribute in a meaningful way. So, I think if this Triple H versus The Rock match, that last time they have a go-around, is going to happen, it's got to be sooner than later. I think this year's WrestleMania would be a great idea for a very basic reason. This year's WrestleMania has the potential to be one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. And here's why. I have a lot of people who've been arguing this with me because we've all known from the day after WrestleMania this year, news broke that next year's main event was already predetermined. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. And there were people who have been in an uproar, myself included, all year because we really didn't want to. First off, we don't want to know. You know, I know there's some people who think, because they're a smart mark, that they need to know everything the minute it's decided. I don't need that. I don't want to know what next year's WrestleMania main event is because it destroys every pay-per-view between when you find out and WrestleMania. I would much prefer not to have a clue. I don't want to know what's going on. Instead, I'd rather sit there and live the experience all year long and be completely oblivious if something's going to happen. So instead, we're kind of stuck, because we all know this is coming. However, if you look at the talent pool that WWE has right now, it has never, and I do mean that, it has never been deeper than it is right now. When you factor into the equation Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, WWE is easily, it's not even a competition, the most talented roster in the history of professional wrestling. I want you to think about something for a minute. Let's look at NXT, for example. With this Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole. You've got the NXT champion, Drew Galloway, Roderick Strong, all those core talents there, Eric Young with Sanity, all former world heavyweight champions in some variation, Ring of Honor or wherever. You go to SmackDown with the AJ Styles, the Sami Zayn, the Kevin Owens, even the Baron Corbins and the Ty Dillingers of the world, Shinsuke Nakamura, the now, I guess you want to consider him a main eventer, Jinder Mahal, John Cena, okay, all those talents. Then you look at Raw, and, yes, you've got your Roman Reigns, your Braun Strowman, your Seth Rollins, your Dean Ambrose, but think about the fact that Cesaro and Sheamus, you guys have been clamoring for Cesaro to be world champion for years, and Sheamus has been a multi-time world champion. And I didn't even mention Randy Orton. That one just popped into my head. But I'm just saying, the conglomeration of huge talents that WWE has right now, from top to bottom, I don't think they've ever had anything even close to this talent pool. Now, there are a lot of old-time fans who would have you believe that because these guys are not taught the art of selling, the art of telling a story, the way someone like a Ricky Steamboat or a Ric Flair or a Bret Hart or somebody of that nature, Macho Man Randy Savage, used to, that in some way the wrestling nowadays is not good. That is actually not the case. If you are being completely honest with yourself, many diehard fans who could love to go back and pull up tapes or look online and watch Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat, those same people would be absolute diehard fanatics to watch a match between someone like Adam Cole and Roderick Strong, or watch a match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Kazuchika Okada, if you want to go back and look at some New Japan stuff. So the talent pool is deep, but the quality of the matches, I understand we don't give hour-long Broadways anymore. We don't see 45-minute matches almost ever anymore. But the quality of what you do have can actually be quite deep. And WWE is in a strategic position to make WrestleMania a very special event. The Triple H versus The Rock match, I know on paper it's like, oh, here comes two part-timers taking a key spot at the biggest pay-per-view of the year. That's right. You know why? Because WWE's plan is to bring in additional audience. And the only way you do that is with special attractions. We're the same group of fans, you and I, who complain every week because Raw is the same recycled crap every week. SmackDown's the same stuff every week. Triple H versus The Rock is not the same stuff. It's not even the same stuff as when they used to wrestle back in the late 90s, because they're so different now in their own personal lives. So you have to do something like this, and if for no other reason, because WWE creative is not intelligent enough or talented enough right now to be able to put together something new that is better than Triple H versus The Rock. Quite frankly, I would love to see The Undertaker face Goldberg, and that's two more part-timers taking a key spot. And John Cena have a big match at WrestleMania. I actually prefer to see John Cena and The Undertaker. But, put Goldberg in there with, I don't even care who. Goldberg and Roman Reigns. Let us book the card. WWE never seems to listen to their fans enough. You let the fans, you put out polls and see what the fans want to see at Mania. The talent pool in WWE right now is so deep that the fans could book the greatest WrestleMania in the history of televised wrestling. And it's there for the taking. I don't care what anybody says. Their matches that could be on that card are there for the taking. Heck, I wouldn't even be opposed to seeing a rematch between Brock and Braun if you actually let them wrestle and let them get out of the ring and just destroy stuff, which is what we all expected from No Mercy, and we got gypped. So, but yeah, the Triple H versus The Rock thing, definitely a possibility in the near future. The same year that we could have Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte for the Women's Championship. And a whole lot of other crazy stuff. So Mania may be a lights-out fantastic show this year. Going to move on to TLC, the main event plans. This has been a point of conversation all week. Original plans were the Shield reunion taking on the Miz Taraj, and now it looks like it's pretty well penciled in. The Miz Taraj is out. Okay, we're not going to see them, but here's the confusion now. After Raw, Cesaro and Sheamus are now hypothetically penciled into that main event to go against the Shield. And you would think on paper automatically that The Miz would be the one joining them because he's been the impetus of this entire feud. But now there's word out that they may make it Braun Strowman and Cesaro and Sheamus taking on the Shield. Now, don't get me wrong. I think from a talent standpoint, and from a belief of the physicality, that makes a lot of sense. After Braun attacks Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose on the last 2 Mondays, etc., it makes a lot of booking sense from a storyline. But The Miz deserves this opportunity. He has been the reason that we're even talking about this. He is so good on the mic right now. He rivals Roddy Piper. He really does. He's that good. And anybody who doesn't want to agree with that, you need to go back and take a look at some of those interviews from back in the day and look at his interviews now. See how he's progressed throughout his career. You know, when people like Chris Jericho and Bret Hart and people like that come out and talk about how great of a talker The Miz is, those are some highly educated people. Edge and Christian, same thing. On their podcast, we're talking about him and how he's evolved. So I feel like he should be in the main event, and I'm still hoping they do that. Braun Strowman, I've said it before, I want to see him face Jason Jordan. I think that would be a great match. Obviously, Jason Jordan will not win that match, unless it's some stupid schmaz ending, which I actually, believe it or not, would be okay with if it furthered Jason Jordan's storyline breaking away from Kurt Angle and going more towards a legit wrestling angle. But we'll have to see how all that plays out over time. Right now, as far as I've been told, it seems like it's still going to be the Cesaro and Sheamus versus The Miz, but I'm not thrilled to hear that there's all that conversation about adding the Braun Strowman to the match. That actually, by the way, is the other thing I've heard, is that it may be a 4-on-3 handicap match, which I don't like that idea even a little bit. That's ludicrous. Early betting odds. They're in for Hell in a Cell. So as we go through the matches for Hell in a Cell, I will tell you my prediction, and then I will tell you what the betting odds are for each match. So we'll get our Hell in a Cell predictions going here, and we'll start with the kickoff show with the Hype Bros taking on Shelton Benjamin and Chad Gable. This one, the betting odds don't shock me. My opinion, of course, I think Benjamin and Gable are going to win the match. This is going to be what leads to the Hype Bros either doing one of two things. Either they go full heel, which I'm okay with, or this is the breakup of the Hype Bros, which I'm also okay with, because I don't really think Mojo Rawley is ready for the main roster. I just don't. He doesn't look good in the ring. He looks green as a gourd. People used to make fun of the Ultimate Warrior for being green. This guy makes the Ultimate Warrior look like a seasoned veteran. So, as my prediction is, Benjamin and Gable, so are the betting odds from Vegas. It looks like Benjamin and Gable will win that match. Randy Orton versus Rusev. I'm pulling for Rusev. I would love to see Rusev win that match for two reasons. One, this is a guy who used to be an unstoppable force. Now he's a glorified jobber. And two, to punish Randy Orton for running his mouth about not wanting to be a babyface. You're a multi-millionaire because of this wrestling business. You're going to complain about your position on the card? Shut up and do your job. You don't show up enough. You don't show up often enough to be thrown around your weight and complaining about your status on the show. So I'd love to see Rusev win the match just to show Randy Orton that he's not as great as he seems to think he is. Now, I heard the stories that Randy Orton wants to be a heel because historically in professional wrestling, the baby faces are the big muscular guys, and the heels are the ones who are the talkers, but they're less physically gifted. And Randy Orton is complaining that at 37 years old, that it's harder and harder for him to maintain his physique, especially with the way he loves to eat his sweets. Well, guess what, Randy? Doesn't matter what you like in your diet. You know, we've all heard the stories of what John Cena and Brock Lesnar and The Rock eat every day to maintain their figure. It's no easier on them. You just have to be disciplined and make it happen. This coming from someone like me, who's a fat tub of lard. I'm not a professional wrestler. You are. Suck it up and deal with it. You know, I'm only a couple years older than Randy Orton, and I'm telling you right now, I can't imagine how hard it must be to bust his tail to maintain the figure he's got. But that's what you do when you're getting paid the kind of money you're getting paid. Just my opinion. So, I am in favor of Rusev winning. The reality is Randy Orton's going to win, and Vegas says that as well. Randy Orton should come out the odds-on winner of this match. Dolph Ziggler versus Bobby Roode. I don't think anybody will be surprised to hear me say I think Bobby Roode wins this one going away. Dolph Ziggler, it sounds like he's on his way out of WWE, that this is going to be his last feud in World Wrestling Entertainment. He has interest in wrestling in Japan. He wants to take a little swirl around Ring of Honor, maybe do a little Impact Wrestling, some Mexican wrestling, and I respect that. He's been in WWE forever, and they have never pushed him past mid-card status. The 2 World Championship runs, let's face it, he gets the title and loses it a day later the first time. He gets the title and loses it, a month and a half later the second time? That's garbage. This guy is an incredible talent. You never gave him the respect he deserved, never gave him the push he deserves, so let him move on. Let him go face Kazuchika Okada and have a match of the year. Let him face Kenny Omega. Let him face Cody without WWE calling the shots. Let him go out and really show the world how great Dolph Ziggler really is. and then maybe, just maybe, he can come back to WWE because he does have a following that he can finally get the push he deserves. Just my opinion. So, in this match, the Vegas odd goers have Bobby Roode winning. I am picking Bobby Roode to win, but I will tell you, the odds are actually much closer than you would think on Roode and Dolph Ziggler. Just a slight edge to Bobby Roode in the betting odds. For the SmackDown Women's Championship, Natalya versus Charlotte, I am going to pick Charlotte to win this match and take the SmackDown Women's Championship. However, to my surprise, the betting odds have Natalya as the favorite to win, a minus 250 to Charlotte's plus 120. That tells me that there's a chance Natalya walks out as champion, and the only reason I would support that is if they are going to change their trajectory and show Starrcade on the network. Because if you remember, at the Starrcade show, Natalya and Charlotte will face off in a cage match for their SmackDown Women's Championship. So if Charlotte does not pick up the championship here, that match would be where you could give her the title. And, Charlotte Flair in Greensboro, North Carolina for, Starrcade. Her father main evented how many of them? How special would it be for her to win the championship in Charlotte at Starrcade, much in the same way her father did in 1983 against Harley Race in the same town? I think that would be a much nicer historical storyline, so I would not be surprised if Natalya walks out as the odds makers say. I still think Charlotte's walking out with that title. In the Hell in a Cell SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, the New Day take on the Usos. So, my prediction, the Usos regain the Tag Team Championship. Vegas has, or the betting odds have, the New Day walking out and retaining their championship. Here's my problem. If WWE truly wants to make the New Day with the greatest tag team in the history of wrestling, and they have to get them to 9 Tag Team Championship wins to tie the Dudleys, 10 to pass them, you gotta have the belts come off them. So in this type of match, I think the match favors the Usos wrestling style, the persona that they're putting on, whereas the New Day are more fun-loving and caring and all that kind of fun stuff. Now, the only way I see the New Day pulling this off is if all 3 members somehow end up in the cell. That would make sense to me. But otherwise, I actually think, I've said this before, I think the Usos ought to come out with Rikishi in their corner. I think that would be a really cool moment, help the pay-per-view a little bit, get a little pop from the crowd, but ought to be curious to see how this plays out. I'm picking the Usos. The betting odds makers are picking the New Day. For the WWE Championship, Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I am making the prediction that Shinsuke Nakamura wins the WWE Championship for one basic reason. And by the way, the odds makers are heavily against me. Jinder Mahal is a heavy favorite to retain his championship. However, I really think WWE values and covets that Indian audience so much that in the end of the day, they want Jinder Mahal to win a second championship reign in India on the Indian tour, just so they could please that crowd base, that fan base. So I think that this would be a great way to do it. They could have him win the championship back. The word is that at the Survivor Series, he'll be competing in a traditional 5-on-5 match. So there's no title implications there, so you don't need to worry about that. And then he can go into December and win that championship back ahead of January's Royal Rumble, where he's supposed to feud with John Cena over the championship. Now, don't get me wrong, Vegas thinks it's going to be Mahal. I would not be surprised if it was Jinder Mahal. I just really am pulling for Shinsuke Nakamura just because I like Nakamura that much. And I think from a booking sense standpoint with the Indian crowd, when they do that tour in India, I think it makes a lot of sense to transition the title for now. It's kind of a slap in the face to Nakamura. I said that on the last episode. I wouldn't want to give it to him at all if it wasn't going to be an extended reign. But let's face it, it's WWE booking. They don't think like we do. So I'm trying to look at this from how they would do things, not how we think they should do things. For the United States Championship, I will offer 2 predictions here. First off, AJ Styles, I predict, will retain the United States Championship, which is also what the Vegas odds makers are saying. AJ Styles should retain over Baron Corbin. However, I'm going to throw this caveat to that match. I think at the end of the day, there is a good chance that Tye Dillinger is added to this match before it gets started and it becomes a triple threat. And if that happens, I still think that AJ Styles walks out as United States Champion. I think that it just would be nice to see Tye Dillinger get involved in an actual pay-per-view match of any kind of substance. And this would be his highest position on the card as of yet. So I think this would be a great way to really solidify Tye Dillinger as a premium talent on the SmackDown roster if you want to use him at a later point in time for a more meaningful and substantial feud. And the last match of the card, Kevin Owens taking on Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell. This is a complicated match because Shane McMahon logistically should not defeat Kevin Owens in any kind of match. And Shane McMahon never has a problem losing anything. But with the storyline out there that they're talking about moving Kevin Owens to Raw, it would make a lot of sense if Shane McMahon defeated Kevin Owens, that he would then trade him to Raw to prevent him from wreaking havoc on his brand or something of that nature. So it is definitely feasible for Shane McMahon to win the match. That being said, my prediction, Kevin Owens is going to beat Shane McMahon. It doesn't matter what makes sense to me. And the odds makers agree with me on that. Kevin Owens is the odds-on favorite, minus 350 to defeat Shane McMahon. By the way, the heaviest odds in this entire pay-per-view is the opening match of the pre-show. Benjamin and Gable are a minus 1,200, which means to win $100, you have to bet $1,200 that Benjamin and Gable would defeat the Hype Bros, which we all think is obviously going to happen. Going to get to the last few tidbits of news for the evening. First off, who should face Asuka at TLC? This conversation has popped up on various websites. I've been thinking about it because you can't do this wrong. You know, this is a talent who, I'm not trying to be mean here, but the woman is 37 years old. She's starting her WWE run very late in a career, especially for a female talent. You know, Vince always likes the young Barbie dolls, and now you've got this woman who's 37 years old. So I don't know how long her shelf life will be in WWE, even on the main roster, with that impressive win streak and everything. However, you got to be careful here. You've got the opportunity to really have an amazing superstar, at least for the next 4 or 5 years, if you choose to do so. And that being said, I think she is the perfect kind of person to face a Charlotte, a Nia Jax, a Ronda Rousey at some point. However, you've got to introduce her correctly. So who do you put her against? So you could do one of two things, and this is just my opinion. You could have her come out and face someone like a Nia Jax, but I don't care who you put her against, Asuka's going to win. So if you do that, you essentially take away a lot of steam that Nia Jax has. Nia Jax is an established star in the brand. She has not had a women's championship run. She deserves one at some point very soon. So, again, if I was booking this, I would not have Asuka face Nia Jax because I would want to put the women's championship on Nia Jax and have Asuka win it from her later. However, that being said, who else is left? There's Emma, who is a sacrificable talent. She's done nothing of substance. There's people like Alicia Fox, who really don't mean much to the brand right now. Bayley has been completely buried lately, but has history with Asuka. For those who don't remember, Bayley lost the NXT Women's Championship to Asuka. That's how Asuka started her reign. And historically, WWE loves to do that kind of thing, where they have a match between two people who have a lot of history. So I think Bayley may be the challenger. I'd be okay with that. Obviously, it won't be Mickie James, because Mickie James is going to get her championship opportunity at that show. Sasha Banks, I would not be willing to sacrifice to her yet. Obviously, you're not going to put her in there with Alexa Bliss, because she'll be with there with Mickie James. So your options are very limited. I feel like this comes down to where it has to be either Emma, because you just want a glorified squash match, or if you want a match that really makes an impact, have it be against Bayley. And if I'm making a prediction, which I know this is not a Hell in a Cell match, but if I'm making a prediction, I say the question was who should face Asuka at TLC, and my opinion is it should be Bayley. Moving on to Natalya, I want to shoot a congratulations out to Natalya this week. Natalya is going to do something that has never been done before by a female wrestler. She will compete in her 100th pay-per-view match. Congratulations to Natalya. That's an amazing feat. It's something that has taken her a very long time to get to. But talk about being committed to the brand. You know, Natalya debuts with Harry Smith and her husband, TJ, I can't remember his last name now, but you get where I'm going with this. She debuts as basically the manager for the tag team, and Tyson Kidd, TJ. But as she debuts as their manager, she didn't get a lot of ring time when they first arrived, which was ludicrous because she was clearly prepared for it. And then when you couple that with the fact that after Harry Smith left, she had a while there where she was kind of like managing her husband. She got into some of the matches. She got a very, very short Divas Championship win or Women's Championship win. And then was kind of put on the shelf as far as championship opportunities for years. Now she finally comes in and gets a world championship. And my understanding, the news this week is that she's being considered a transitional champion to transition the title to Charlotte, which is what I predicted earlier in the Hell in a Cell predictions. However, from a fan side perspective, I really hate it. I think Natalya deserves a significant run with the title. That's what you should get. That should be your reward for all your devotion to the company. You get to have a nice long run with that championship. And that's something that isn't happening apparently. Apparently it's going to go to Charlotte really quick. But in the meantime, Natalya I shouldn't say headlining, but taking part in a 100th match at a pay-per-view is huge. Nothing but respect for Natalya. Congratulations. Major independent star is headed to Global Force Wrestling. That's the speculation. A former WWE talent. And we were talking about Sami Callihan. Sami Callihan's been all over the world. He was Simon Crow in NXT. He was not getting over, didn't get the right kind of push. His character just wasn't working with the fans, and so he left. He requested his release. He left on good terms, and he has traveled the world. AAW, all sorts of stuff over in Europe and in Japan, and now it looks like he may be headed to GFW or Impact Wrestling, whatever they're going to call themselves now after Bound for Glory. And that's a big opportunity for them. That's a major established international indie star signing an exclusive contract. So if this happens, I actually think it's a nice injection of life into the arm of Impact Wrestling. I think it's somebody that they really could benefit from. If you have never seen Sami Callihan wrestle, you are missing out. He puts on an amazing match with just about anybody he gets in the ring with. He's willing to do anything for the betterment of the business and to further a storyline. I've seen him wrestle men, women, and everything in between. He is really a fantastic talent. It's a great get for Global Force Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, whatever they want to call themselves. At the same time, the other tidbit of news is WWE is now interested in another major independent star, and that's Fred Yehi. If you don't know who that is, look him up. He is another incredibly talented guy. He wrestles for Evolve. He's been a champion all over the country. He competes in all the major independent promotions. Again, AAW, Wrestle Circus. He's been wrestled for Hollywood Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So he has a lot of exposure, a lot of tape on him on YouTube, and WWE, again, trying to pick another major indie star and just stockpile that NXT roster with people like Leo Rush and Donovan Dijak and Roderick Strong and Adam Cole and Fish and O'Reilly and all these people they've been bringing in lately. WWE, as I said at the onset of this episode, just incredibly talented right now. Their roster is like ridiculous deep right now. So I'll be curious to see how things play out, but another great get for the World Wrestling Entertainment family. I did want to let some people know, I had some questions from some of the fans this week about whether or not I'd be doing another live episode. Apparently there are some local fans who are looking forward to this WWWA wrestling. So the next show for the Worldwide Wrestling Alliance will take place next Saturday night, the 14th, at Zern's Farmers Market in Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. By all means, check that out. If you are anywhere near there, get there. It's worth it. It's like $12 to get in. You might as well be sitting in the ring. That's how close you are. And they put on a good show. So check that out if you can. And then if you are in the Quakertown area, the 4th Saturday of the month, the 28th, is when they will be back in the ring in Quakertown. I will not be at the show on the 14th. Unfortunately, I have other plans, other responsibilities that will take me away from being able to do that. But I potentially should be at the 28th show. I look forward to doing that. I got so much positive feedback. Thank you so much to the fans of this show for telling me how much you appreciate those episodes. I find them thoroughly entertaining myself when I'm recording them, but I'm always worried that it's not going to translate well to you guys, and to hear from you guys that you enjoy those shows really means a lot to me. Throughout the week, If you come up with some kind of question, comment, concern, the Fro Wrestling Sound Off line is live all week long. 267-642-1160. I am always looking for questions, for comments, for anything you'd like to discuss. I get great questions every week. I get questions every couple days from my buddy in St. Louis, Harold. Harold gives me some of the most wonderful back and forth conversations. Same thing with my buddy John in Hatfield, my buddy Nate in Sellersville, Anthony over in Lansdale. I get great conversation from all the loyal listeners. And then it got people, I need you to do me a favor though. If you're going to send me a question, please tell me your name, because I feel like I want to make sure I give you the proper shout out on these episodes. And I got some people who've been calling in and giving me some great conversation, and I don't really even know who to credit it to. So by all means, if you want to call and give a question or comment or something like that to the Sound Off line, I love it. Just tell me your name so I can give you credit for it when we talk about it on the show. If you have never been there before, go to frowrestling.com. It is the homepage of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. Everything that we're going to cover on the current episode, or if we're in the process of planning the next episode, will be available there for you to review. That way, if there's a topic you don't think we're going to cover, let me know on the Sound Off line. If there's a topic that you see that we're going to cover and that you want to interject your opinion, I love that. By all means, shoot us a message on there. Tell us what your thoughts are about a particular topic that's coming up. We would love to get to you. For everybody else, before I forget, make sure you are going on to frowrestling.com and clicking the button in the middle of the page to cast your votes for the greatest female wrestler of all time tournament that is going on right now. I have already received a ton of votes, and it's a beautiful thing. Thank you to all of you who are casting your votes. I know, and I got this comment, and I knew it was coming. Somebody was like, wow, there's like nobody in this first round who I know who is, in each match. There's like somebody I don't know. I get it. Like I said on the last episode, a lot of the talents in the first round, many of them are from Japan, so people aren't necessarily as familiar. I have one person who literally told me that they were going match to match and Googling or YouTubing every person in the tournament, and it took them hours to do the tournament. I appreciate the devotion. You're amazing. The person knows who they are. I'm not going to mention the name because they asked me not to. Some other listeners may know who that person is, so I'll keep that to myself. But they're taking the time to go and educate themselves about who these different talents are, and they're thoroughly surprised. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't looked at the results, but that person did share with me that they did not vote for Trish Stratus in the first round after watching her opponent in a match on YouTube, and I was like, wow, really? I thought that was a gimme. So by all means, check that out. There are 13 voting blocks in the opening round of a 256-person tournament, and that's only done that way because SurveyMonkey, the service we use for our voting, only allows you to put 10 questions in a survey. So it's kind of funky. That's why I have so many. But after this round, every round it'll be cut in half because we're eliminating half the talent. So by all means, get your votes in there. As I said last episode, those voting blocks will remain open through a 2-week period. So we launch them on Wednesday night. So not this Wednesday, the following Wednesday is when they will close, and we will hopefully launch that week the next round once we analyze the data. And I will announce those to those members, to everybody on that week's Going Live episode. Now, for our Patreon members, the voting for the next round will always launch before it launches for the Going Live viewers. So if you want to get an early start on voting on tournaments, you got to become a Patreon member. If you want to host episodes with me, I would love to have you. By all means, call you up, set up an episode with you, get everything down on paper, talk about what we're going to go over, and get you to just back and forth, just work with me, do the episode together. The way we make that happen, $25 donation for the Patreon, and if nothing else, our $10 contributors, you get put in a drawing to maybe host an episode yourself. I would love to have as many of you people host episodes with me as possible, not because I'm greedy for the cash, though I would love to be able to get us better equipment, but because I love to hear from you guys. You guys make this show as rewarding as it is for me. So by all means, if that's something you're interested in or you'd like to host an episode with me, get on to patreon.com/ProWrestlingPodcast and become a Patreon member today. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next time. We'll run down everything that happens at the pay-per-view. I will be, I'm not going to broadcast an episode during the pay-per-view. However, I will be on Twitter Fro Wrestling Podcast on Twitter, and I will be shooting out comments throughout the show. If you are on Twitter, feel free. Give me questions back and forth, or we'll play off each other's comments, whatever you'd like. But by all means, check out that pay-per-view if you have the network or have your cable or satellite provider offers it. It is going to be a great show. Special thanks, as always, go out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music that we use throughout the show. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this new game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the page. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all of your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. Shoot over to our website at frolifeplanning.com for all of your higher education needs. If you're looking at college, university, or you need additional training to start that new career path, that's what we do. We are the specialists. Call us at Fro Life Educational Planning. And remember, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. If you're looking for more wrestling news and rumors, go to www.sportsjunkies101.com and check out our latest articles on the world of professional wrestling. Until next episode, everybody, take care, enjoy the pay-per-view, and I'll be back with you guys next week with our episode to run down the show. Take care.